discussing what is happening within Nairobi County. Sylvanus, is Governor Sonko fully in charge of this county, considering what's happening with the Regeneration Committee, the story in the paper today?
No, it's clear that Governor Sonko is not in control of the county. He appears as a proxy of some very serious operatives in the house in the hill. And this hasn't been noticed just the other day. We've seen him complain in the recent past when he was given a leeway to nominate his deputy. And he said, you know, I want to do my thing, but I'm being told I need to do this and this and this, although he's playing safe and stuff like that. Again, he's a guy, in my view, who plays with the, who plays with Mwananchi, but then he's not in control. We've seen that the president, or rather, let me not use the president, the state house. Let me just use the president, the state house. Exactly. I have to be very careful with what I say.
Be careful who you step toes.
Exactly, right? Because I also do not hold brief on matters state house.
Okay.
But then,
matters the presidency. Matters
the presidency. You know, they say that you need to respect the leaders, and I think it's very important to respect the president. However, whichever way you like him, hate him, you must respect him. But Mike Sonko, people who made him become governor are Jubilee operatives. He's moved to join Jubilee, to stick with Jubilee and campaign for Jubilee. When he appeared that it ought to be, he was almost being shortchanged by the entrance of Peter Kenneth. He was convinced, you know, they really tried to convince him to, you know, not to run and stuff like that. They'll do what? He still declined and pushed his way. And of course, Jubilee never wanted to lose Nairobi because Sonko happens to control a lot of votes in Nairobi, especially in the slum areas where people vote, actually.
Happened.
Exactly. Happened. And to Sonko, he actually thought that being governor is very easy, just like what he used to do as an MP, hitting walls and sleeping, you know. He thought this thing is very easy. He does not know that this thing comes with a lot of pressure. I was watching him yesterday, save for what he's done on the hair and stuff like that. The guy is really getting frustrated completely. You look at his face, he was sleeping all through. I think you noticed that. The guy was actually sleeping. Because this thing is not so easy. This thing is not very easy. And especially Nairobi, the capital city. But then I'll tell you that a serious government will not allow one like Sonko to run a serious city like Nairobi by himself. They must control him. Kidero was a man of his own because, of course, of his education, exposure, and stuff like that. But for Sonko to be left to run Nairobi by himself, trust me. Now, you'll see him get matatus off in Gara and now bring all the street children and put them in town and say, okay, all the street children be in town. Because he's a guy who is at times, you know, quite emotive. It makes emotive decisions. I mean, quite temperamental for nothing, believes that money is everything in life and stuff like that. And that is what now makes him clueless on governance, in my view. And I do that with a lot, I say that with a lot of respect to him because he's an elected leader. Okay. I need to be very careful.
Right. And so what is the solution? Because we were talking about, there's been talk about how we handle Nairobi County. Like, should it be handled differently from the other 46 counties? Should it not be a county? Should it be run by a cabinet minister? Should this not be subjected to politics?
I'll say that so that David responds to that, because I was saying that off camera, that in as much as we might think that we probably could be solving a cosmetic, be coming up with cosmetic solutions because of the office bearer, Governor Sonko. But my strongest view is that Nairobi, just like Washington, D.C., does not need to have a governor. Okay. This county needs to be under the executive. I mean, we need to have a minister, Nairobi Metropolitan Minister. Where decisions are made within cabinet, you know, you can't really come up with changes without a cabinet memo, where you sit down as a cabinet, you know, draft changes, bring them to the house, to the floor of the house, have those policies passed and stuff like that. It shouldn't be left elective as it is, because after all, what will be happening is that we'll always select, and with our voting lines, we'll always be tribal in voting or on party lines, sadly. in as much as the office bearer appears incompetent, as per now, for lack of a better word, nobody knows what will happen again in 2022. Because after all, back to elections, we'll be told, okay, vote for your tribe, vote Suti. You know, you need to vote three-piece and stuff like that. Six-piece nowadays. Yeah. So it's a county that needs to be abolished, in my view. And I think populists will not agree to this. Noise makers will not agree to this. But the truth of the matter is, Washington, D.C. is Washington, D.C. because it does not have a governor. Okay. It's under the state in the United States of America.
David?
Listen, we start by asking whether Mike Sonko is a man of his own. I think he's a man of his own. My question is whether he has exuded the confidence and competence needed to run Nairobi County, and sadly, he has not demonstrated that competence. Nairobi needs a level of sophistry that is unique to itself. Do I think that, like Washington, D.C., Nairobi needs to be under the firm grip of the presidency and appoint a minister in charge of it? There are pros and cons to that. I think Washington, D.C. makes for a wonderful example, but London has a mayor who's elected as well and makes for another example. So we will need to dissect and assess the two and say which model works, because the truth is, the people of Nairobi would want to have a say, you know, on about who is going to be our leader, who do we think is capable. I think the place is to ensure that those who are running for this office are vetted, and we just say, you know what, you are unable. This cadre of leaders is unable to grape this city and have it under firm control. They do not have the sophistry needed to... We have?
Laws on vetting.
No.
I mean, the EACC takes a look at it. The IBC also vets it. We have the laws that say a governor must have...
Exactly. Like President Kenyatta said about fish from China, we can innovate within the law. We can innovate within the law to ensure that we don't end up with the, you know, with a few characters in Nairobi. I think also that this is a wake-up call to the voter. You see, when we go to the election and decide to walk into that room with our hearts and not our minds, the end result is this. The people who suffer for the decisions they make are the electorate themselves. We need to tell the electorate that you are going to pick person B because he's left 1,000 shillings at home or come by and left you freebies. But you will have to contend with the insecurity that comes with that, with all this disorder that comes with this choice, with all these other, you know, things that are going on at the moment. So there would be, we would need a whole 2 hours to dissect the pros and cons of having elections. But I think there is an aspect of the city that ought to be left to absolutely the central government to manage. Aspects of it. Whether it is transport or so. I mean, I think governors need to have their place. A governor needs to be elected in Nairobi who does his thing, but there are bits of the city that cannot entirely be left under the grip of the governor, like security, like transport.
But security is a national function.
It's still national.
No. Just as it is national, so can transport be in Nairobi, so that you resolve one thing at a time over a span of 5, or is it 7 years as was now proposed? 5 years, and then you then move to another thing that you think you can revert back to national management.
You're saying that there is an aspect that needs perhaps to be left to the national government, David, but you're forgetting that, you see, you're talking about transport because of the challenges that we faced recently. But
Nairobi, not recently, it's been endemic.
My view, our challenges in Nairobi are not just about transport. We've got water challenges, and that should be very
sanitation.
Clear. Water is devolved. It's a devolved function. And sadly, in Nairobi, there are people who take a week to shower because of lack of water in their estates. And we've got sanitation challenges, you know, because the environment is very funny. And having an elected governor, or a politician for that matter, you'll always try to please the populace. You know, you want to appease to people, you want to excite them, and that is why you see a lot of funny, camera show things. You know, I've gone to help people, fires and everything. Let me give this bundle of money and everything. I've bought them this and this and this. Yeah. That shouldn't be happening in a capital city. If you go to Washington, D.C., you'll realize that it's a very quiet city, completely quiet. And I'm trying to remember their slogan, kinda. Yeah. A city without governance or something, a city without whatever. But still, the city is extremely quiet because it's managed by the executive. It's managed by the national government. When you manage a kind of a city with a politician, he'll always do something to excite the populace. And that is what is happening with Sonko. That is what was happening with Kidero. Trust me, had this ban been done by the national government, just like what Michuki did a while back, trust me, one, because it must have been consultative, with a lot of processes. Trust me, it could have been effected. And you have one like Matiang'i placed there. Yeah. It could have been effected, and you couldn't have seen. I think
Matiang'i should be appointed governor of this city. Listen to me, Yvonne.
Matiang'i
should be everything everywhere.
Should be a governor of.
Uhuru Kenyatta needs 5 Matiang'is, and he can send all the rest home. Listen to me. I have been to Washington, so the imagination that Washington is peaceful because it's run by the national government. What would be the explanation for California's, tranquility and order? What would be the explanation for Arkansas? What would be the explanation of all those other, states? There are many other states that are just as organized as Washington. They may not be as big as Washington, but they are organized. Now, tell you what, I agree. And have elected leaders. Yes. And they have elected leaders. Yeah. What I think is we need to an extent, I agree that having Nairobi under the management, that's why I'm saying there are pros and cons. Having Nairobi under the management of the central government would be a good idea, because then you get a competent person to go there and do what he knows how to do. However, you will have to then balance it around the issues of rights, because people will say, I have a right to elect my governor. Good. It becomes very complicated.
David, allow me to interject, because there's a point that you brought up that I'd like to get Silvana's opinion on. You talked about vetting of leaders and saying, sort of the weeding out process. Yeah. This is who we need, and then we present that to the electorate.
Yeah.
Silvanus, what, as an elected leader, where is the balance between vetting and should people decide that they want Governor Mike Sonko or anyone else for that matter? Isn't that the price of democracy, that it is the will of the people that has been expressed, that we want Silvanus? Okay, he may not be who we want him to be, and it doesn't necessarily tick all the boxes, but as an elected leader and as a politician yourself, what do you think is the place of vetting versus the will of the people?
Vetting is done, but it's done carelessly, because it gets back to our systems. Yeah. I'll again give you an example. Forget about even the elective positions. We are now talking about corruption in Migori. The other day we were talking about corruption in Migori County. But the governor is serving his second term. He was cleared by all the officers to run. I do not really know the body that can be, allowed to vet, because the body that should be mandated to vet politicians, because politicians, some way, somewhat, will always get their way wherever when they want a political seat. But again, the Constitution bars that kind of. It will now bring the aspect of discrimination and rights of association or to elect any person that you need and everything. Although Chapter 6 talks about integrity, the right to associate with anyone that you need, to choose whatever, under Article 37 will be faulted if we go that direction of saying, okay, we need now this and this and this to run, because you cannot project the kind of a leader you'll get. Leaders are not, you can't actually project. David Osiaji, by God's grace, will be the Rongo Member of Parliament in 2022. And I've seen him do a lot of...
You need to say an amen to
it. Amen. Amen.
But you see, we cannot...
Why is he limiting me? I mean, end up being Nairobi governor.
Oh, well.
No, we want to abolish Nairobi.
We
want to abolish Nairobi as a county. As a county. Exactly. But what I'm saying is, we cannot project the kind of leader you'll make. We do not really know what you'll be made of then. And sadly, in our country, we do not rate leaders based on what they do. And I'll tell you this, we're living in a very funny world. People are sadists per nature. I mean, guys just choose what they want to do. People decide to vote for you either because you have money or because you've spoken very well, you know how to speak very well, and they just like you. Yeah. They do not want to know what you do for them and everything.
Yvonne, you become a women, right?
Division of roles is also not well defined within our scope of leadership, and I think guys do not really know who does what where. I mean, to date, I'm still asked for water in the constituency. To date, I'm being told, you know, Mweshimiwa, you're walking around and you're forgetting we don't have water. They do not know that water is devolved. Right. To date, I'm being asked about dispensaries. They do not know that one is also devolved. So we need to conduct a civic education, kinda, in the whole country. One, teach people on governance. People should know that
who your MP is, what he does, his role.
Exactly, what is his role, why he should elect this kind of a caliber of a person and stuff like that. But again, on vetting point, we need to be authenticating papers that people claim to have. We do not want to have guys having, you know, ceremonial, papers and claim, you know, we have a degree, I have a doctorate and stuff like that. It's quite sad that guys decide to go to school anytime they want, and degrees acquired in 2 years should be questionable. Trust me, how do you acquire a degree in 2 years?
I know, but you know, because we made it a requirement, also, so everybody sort of rushed to get in. And
on the county also, my view is we also need to raise education standards on the legislators who sit in the county assemblies. Trust me, some of them are being taken advantage of by the governors because of lack of quality education, or lack of basic education. Okay. I have I wouldn't mention a name, but in my county I have an MCA in the county, the entire county of Kisii, who has never spoken in the assembly because of language barrier. He can't fluently speak in Swahili or nor English, although he's a good politician outside there. Right. You see, how do you expect that guy to legislate in the county assembly? How do you expect that guy in the county to take, not even that, to take his role as an oversight officer to the governor who is well schooled with a lot of experience? It's not possible.
Listen to me, Yvonne. This gets back squarely to the issue of institutions and systems, as I had said. When we talk about vetting, we have the single opportunity to save Kenyans from these people who pretend, who posture as leaders and yet they are crooks. You have the DCI. For you to run as a member of parliament in this country, you must submit a certificate of good conduct. There is no way we are going to have it generated quickly, gotten from Kiambu and just presented. There needs to be proper audit on every single person who runs. And that's why I'm saying if a system is enabled and equipped, it should do what it ought to do. It will then get to the bottom of all the other things, your fingerprints everywhere, and tell you on this basis alone, we are not giving you the certificate of good conduct. And that makes it very easy, because the IEBC will not take you as a candidate until and unless you present that. You go to EACC, you cannot run for office until you have clearance from EACC.
The problem with that...
Have these systems been effective in executing their mandate? Absolutely not. You've ended up with the people who had criminal records, obviously known to all of us, ending up with a certificate of good conduct, even though they've been convicted for more than 6 months, which then makes them naturally, they are ineligible to run for office.
All right.
That is where we are. The problem with that is that you will be creating semi-gods. Will be just like what is happening within parties. You know, parties will hold small gods. You've got to worship a party leader to be cleared. You've got to worship, those kind of things.
No, the thing is, just create a system that does its own job.
But now the problem is this. The problem is this. Our system, we are under a system we call the common law. That you see, you are innocent until proven guilty.
But where you have been proven guilty,
and upon conviction, if you are able to, if you serve your period, because we believe you've been,
regenerated,
like
Nairobi Regeneration Committee.
That's a good